And finally, we are here at the Locker Room Report with the Hockey National Show. Of course, Coach Frenchie directly for Thailand. And we have our two co-hosts back with us tonight. Marko for Hawkesbury and for Toronto. Mr. Enortap is in the house tonight.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hockey Nation.
Yeah, you know, it's like the pre-warm-up before the game. So it's a pre-Halloween before the Halloween. So we just, get back in the Halloween style, everything like that. So we're going to get, next week ready for Halloween with some candy for everybody. But before we start, we want to say welcome everybody very quickly because we have a lot of subjects to talk. We'll try to keep this show under the 2 hours. So I'm sure many of you have a lot of great conversation to talk about. And we'll see. First of all, we have Luc from Vancouver is in the house. The moderator, Luciano Graziano, is with us. Another moderator, Run with Kings 20, is in the house. Thank Ron for your email today. Abination is in the house. Google account, welcome back. Leon Renault is RJ Calabro with all the update is in the house. Randy Walkman is with us tonight. Randy, thanks so much. Dixon Automobile Group is in the house tonight. No donuts tonight, Mr. Enortap. No donuts. You take a day off about that. They prepare for the next season. CG for Colorado, downtown Denver, beside the Ball Arena. Larry Lavalley, still in upstate New York, is prepare his trip to go to Arizona. Hopefully doing well, Larry. We missed you last night, by the way. Mr. Gary Cornway, hopefully doing well. And yeah, the doc is here, so they gave me the verdict about that. So hopefully doing better. Gary got hurt, I think he's back. If I can recall it, I'm not remember. Yeah. But speed recovery, Gary. All about you. We have Samuel is in the house tonight. Go Avs, go Samuel. Thanks for being with us. Our friend Roy for Bangkok is in the house tonight. And we have to see Claude Richard from Ottawa. He is with us on the special night. And then Sébastien is in the house tonight. Welcome back, Sébastien. Notre ami François Pitre is with us tonight. Rare to see François during the week. Usually he works, but hopefully he's going to stay with us until to the end of the show. Do we have anybody else? Let's see. We've got a lot of great conversation between all of you guys. Glad to see you. A2, retour avec nous. Toffoli is on fire, 5 goals and 5 period. You're absolutely right, A2. We're going to talk about Toffoli a little bit later in the show tonight. And Paul, welcome back, Paul. Thanks for being with our Canadian show. Glad to have you aboard. And then do we have Larry conversation? Nicolas de Goubi-Bonneau de la belle région de Sherbrooke is with us tonight. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. We're almost at 20 already. Roger Delaney, Mr. Enortap, and Marko is with us tonight. Always love to have Roger with us when he can. Etienne Morin is with us tonight. Etienne, j'espère que tout va bien. Oh, you're not late. You're not late. Enortap, he was stuck in the door. So we start the show later, Etienne. So you're all right. You're all right. Don't worry about that. It's all good. Here we are. We have everybody in the house, Mr. Enortap and Marko. Now it's time, you guys. You won't talk for the next 90 minutes. Me, I'm just controlling the show. That's how I love to do the Wednesday night. And I forgot to mention to you, Mr. Enortap and Marko, notre ami William McClary is in the house tonight. Him is prepared for the snow. He's just looking for the snow because he wants to get back on his snowmobile. Anyhow, a lot of conversation. Before we start, we're going to give you the subject of the day, guys. Of course, going to talk about the locker room report for the Montreal Canadiens. We'll talk all the news. Savar out for 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to see the impact of this injury. And you follow me. When the Montreal play every morning, I make a recap game for the Montreal Canadiens. Yesterday, I talked about the Devils and the Montreal Canadiens. And you can see Kaden Primo. You can watch those videos every day, early in the morning, or at least before 11 o'clock a.m. And that's what we got, guys, on this show tonight. Born to be Abs is in the house, guys. So welcome back. And of course, going to talk about the Montreal and the NHL news and all the kind of conversation. So you're going to be very involved in the chat tonight. First of all, what we do at the beginning of the show, we do the headlines, everybody. And tonight, we're going to start with Marko Larrabee with his headlines. But where's my headlines, my coach? It's right here. Don't worry, I'm going to get that one. No, it's Enortap. I apologize for that one over there. Enortap, you're going to start right away. And I think you said to me, the headline is going to be success with interrogation. I keep Martin Saint-Louis behind the bench. So tell us what is your headlines. Are you still there? Enortap, he freeze, you look like. So, Marko, you still there?
I'm still here, I think.
Here we go. Falling like a dominoes. We're just falling in Enortap, Mr. Marko.
Well, hopefully, maybe Enortap will reload up and come back. But, so this headline, coach, it means a couple things. So, obviously, the one metaphor with dominoes is that all the injuries are starting to happen again. And, you have Doc and now Savard and Goalie. So things are starting to pile up. So not only are the players falling like dominoes, but the reason I thought that this was kind of a good metaphor, if you guys remember this summer, when Montreal kind of came out with the news that they were going to be firing their medical staff, and it was going to, hopefully that was going to really resolve a lot of the issues, maybe with injuries and everything. I don't know, Coach, if you remember, but the point that I made at the time is that it's kind of, in my opinion, it was kind of a scapegoats, to be honest, the medical team. What I mean by dominoes is that I think the reason that Montreal has so many injuries, so there's a lot of things. The reason Montreal takes so many penalties, the reason they take have so many injuries, the reason that they spend so much time in their zone, maybe it has something to do with the way that they play, right? They spend so much time in their zone, which means that you're going to inevitably have to block more shots. It means that you're going to have longer shift times. You're going to be tired. You're going to take penalties. You're going to have to, start running around, blocking shots. So I've kind of been talking about this over the last month or so. about the man-to-man system that Montreal is using compared to a lot of teams that are moving more towards a hybrid system, zone and man-to-man. So I'm just wondering when, I don't see a lot of people talking about this, and it's something that, to me, it all connects together, right? Like, the fact that they take so many penalties, the most penalized team in the league. Again, we're on our way to having the most man injuries lost again, because we're just, over the players are overcompensating for the style of play that they're playing in the defensive zone. So I don't claim to have all the answers, but all I can tell you is that I see a pattern emerging here since last year where these things are just continuing to happen. And like I said, when they kind of turned over the medical staff, okay, that might have a little bit of a positive effect, but at the end of the day, there's something deeper happening here as to why Montreal continues to be one of the most penalized teams in the league and one of the teams that gets injured the most. So interesting to hear your thoughts. Maybe it's something we can talk about later, but that's kind of the headline I wanted to go with today.
All right, no problem. We're going to talk a little bit more deeper after that. For your comments about this, let's go with mine, Mr. Marko. And no more 3 goalies, Mr. Enortap. And it's more confusing today. It was last night because Primo did not do bad. He did not do great. And he's stuck in the middle of everything. He did not change any area of the goaltending situation. It's not the best thing. It's not the best thing for him and the team. And Martin Saint-Louis hate that right now, to have 3 goaltenders. And this is something they have to fix very soon. I understand the situation. It's a precaution because think about this, Mr. Marko. You talk about injury, right? Imagine if they lose Allen. They have Montembeault, and Primo is already out. Like he got on the waiver, he out. You have to call now Dobesh. Now they are not in the good position. This is for the reason I believe they keep Primo. They want to see what they can do. For me, I think what it could happen is if any other team put someone on the waiver, I think Montreal, if he fit under salary cap, everything like that, and they can send him a Laval, that will happen. I think they need another goaltender with experience, or at least been a professional goalie, at least in American Hockey League, to helping the Laval Rocket in case you have an injury for the Montreal Canadiens, because they could be really bad. So this is maybe the reason why they are a little bit concerned about Primo situation. But for me, no more, because I think you can see Martin Saint-Louis, the way he act at the press conference, the way he talk about everything is not. He hate that right now, and
it's not ideal. It's not ideal.
It's not a good thing. So I just want to share with guys my headlines about this. Whoever Ursa Major is in the house tonight, welcome back. GSM is in the house. Alain Vaillancourt knock the door. Welcome back, and all of you are in the house tonight. We'll see what happening about this. So we're going to move on. Get back. I don't know, Marko. Enortap tried to come back. He tried to come back, and he's stuck outside. So I don't know what's going on.
Maybe his skate blade fell off as he was trying to block a shot or something, and it's hard to.
I don't know. He said, "I cannot go through. I'm trying."
Weird.
That's weird. So
all right, well,
we're going to consider without him. The only way we can do that is let him go over there. I think I have a picture of I have a picture of Enortap somewhere, but I don't know where he's at. So
that would be fun. I can try to imitate his voice if you want.
We'll stay there. We're going to remove that one of there. It's not a big deal about that. So the next conversation I want to talk about tonight is a little bit review the last 2 games between the Buffalo, Montreal, and of course the New Jersey and the Canadiens. So in that chat, you can get us your comments, and then Marko gave us a little bit what happening for the last 2 games for the Montreal Canadiens overall.
Yeah, so Coach, watching the last couple games and really the entire beginning of the season here, there's a couple of small differences, but overall, I see a very similar kind of story to what we saw at the beginning of last year. To be honest, the one thing that's different is that at the beginning of the year last year, Suzuki was really producing at a high rate. Remember he had a really high shooting percentage and all that. We're not seeing that this year. But overall, I think it's a very similar story. And if there's one thing that we learned from the beginning of last year is that you can't be fooled by these positive results. They're fun, they're fun games to watch. But if you really look at kind of what's going on underneath the surface here, for the most part, the goals expected from the other teams that have been playing Montreal are way higher, especially the Buffalo game, right? Like I think I have the stats here. So for the Buffalo game, I think the goals expected were something like I think it was like 4 for Buffalo, and they only scored 1, which means that Allen just basically robbed them, right? But really, on paper, it should have been a lot closer of a game. And to be honest, probably Buffalo probably had a better chance. In theory, they're the ones that should have won that game on paper, right? Now, I know not everything is advanced analytics and stats and everything, but ultimately, yes, there's some positive results, but there's still some really problematic things that are happening from a play perspective. So if you look back at the Buffalo game, again, some very kind of timely scoring there. So some just really kind of taking advantage of the few kind of chances that they had, and then Allen, for the most part, just really kind of stole that game for Montreal. And then last night, like, I think New Jersey had been sitting for, I think, at least almost like 7 days or something. They hadn't played since the at least
Party.
many days. Yeah. So they were sitting for a while. So they came out a little flat in the first period. Montreal had a really good start to the period, got into penalty trouble. And then kind of what I was talking about before, right? Like, they started getting bottled in their zone. New Jersey obviously really started to get pucks in deep and really kind of make the defense start working. And you can just see the discombobulation that's happening in the Montreal zone, and it's just a matter of time that a team like New Jersey is going to take advantage of those situations. The story of Caden Primo, very tough position for him to kind of come into. I think for the most part, there was that highlight reel save that he had. Overall, like, if you look at at kind of the analytics for that one, I think New Jersey's goals expected was right around 5. So he was right on the money there. So I think Primo had a good game, especially considering that he hasn't played in almost like 2 weeks or something like that, 3 weeks. So good for him to get out there. I agree that the three roster goaltender situation, the system of the alternating 3 goalies is not something that's sustainable over the long term. But overall, like, I think the way that I see it, it's a very similar start to last year. Habs fans should be, taking this with a grain of salt, this initial kind of like record that they have. Even the 5-on-5, like, everybody keeps saying about how the 5-on-5 record is really strong, but it's kind of like a chicken and the egg argument, coach. Like, if you're spending less time 5-on-5 because you're killing so many penalties, maybe if you were 5-on-5 more, maybe you would have had more goals scored against you 5-on-5. But the reason that they're not on 5-on-5 that much is because they're taking so many penalties, right? So yes, they are playing okay 5-on-5, but they're not playing a lot of 5-on-5 because they're taking so many penalties, because they're not playing well in their zone. They're getting trapped. So there's a lot of misleading statistics. Same thing with the faceoff percentage, right? Like, oh, Montreal's in first place in the NHL for faceoffs. Well, look at these centers that Montreal had been facing in these first couple games, right? So sounds like I'm being very negative, but I'm just putting it out there that if you analyze everything that's happening, there's some positive things that we can look at. But ultimately, there's still a lot of things to work on here. If the objective this year is for St. Louis to really get everybody on the same page in terms of playing the right way, learning how to win, playing hockey, winning hockey, and that's the key thing, then there's still a lot of work to do there. And last thing is, St. Louis, like, there's a couple times I've heard him say this where he says, we're looking pretty well organized out there. That's really the only thing that concerns me, is when I hear him say that, because I don't know, coach, are you seeing that they look well organized out there?
5 versus 5, or
just overall, like Martin St. Louis' comment that compared to last year, he feels that his team is better organized on the ice.
Yeah, so what he was trying to explain is like the team is advanced compared last year because they have to start from nothing, like from scratch. Now this year they know the system, they know what they have to do, so they're a little bit advanced. Of course, it's not perfect, right? But that's what it was the reason he said that.
Yeah, but like to me, it's more. I get the sense that he's talking about systems as well too, right? So I've heard him say that too, right? Like, yeah, so we're not starting from scratch this year. The players kind of know the fundamentals of the concepts that we want to do. But are you seeing progress on, like, again, I know I'm harping on this, right? But the amount of time that they're spending trapped in their own zone doesn't indicate to me that they are advancing that much in those key systems.
Well, for me, it's always simple. Young core or defenseman. That's simple. When you have a player under 22 years old, 23 years old, that's happened there. That's just it is right. This is the biggest problem. Is right there. The core, the defenseman, it's just not ready yet to play. Consistency between that. So they are all
No, I agree.
constantly pushed back because the pressure they get and the time the reaction and the time they go over there. The time to play, but the time of the possession of the puck is pretty similar every game. It's about less or 2 minutes each team, so they are not like constantly in
The
defensive
offensive,
zone. What
it
happening in
feels
defensive zone sometimes, Marco, for me, it was they stay there for a long time. Sometimes, like too long time, like they create some kind of turnover or they give away puck again where they should easily put the puck outside the zone. Sometimes it could be fatigue too long on on the ice, and the second period we all accumulate together. For me, this is what I feel about because, and again, they don't have a lot of mobility defensemen. That's another problem there.
oh, yeah.
They have only
Mobility, right?
Madison and barely Barron. Jacky don't move the puck. Goalie does not move puck. This year Madison is limited. He don't play the level he played last night. He did. I understand that. But so Savar
I
don't
don't
go
know,
nowhere.
coach. Like,
Kovacevic don't go nowhere. So this is the biggest problem too they have on the defense wing.
see, I don't know if I agree. Like, I think we got into this a little bit last week too, but I know it's very simple to say, okay, so if a team is playing bad defensively, then it means that the defensemen are not playing that well. From what I'm seeing, anyways, I'm not saying, of course, there's times like, especially I find Harris gets bottled in a lot. Like, instead of kind of making a quick pass up, like I find that they cycle back a lot around the boards and allows the forechecker to kind of like come in for a second wave. I find Harris does that a lot. But so I'm not saying that the defensemen are perfect. For sure, that it's a young decor, right? But to me, I view it more as a five-man unit issue more than just simply a young defensive core issue. Like, if the young defenseman had better options in the defensive zone, if they had a, if they understood what the system was, maybe a bit better, maybe then there would be quicker decisions. Like, see, I guess that's what I don't understand, right? Like, Saint Louis seems to really want them to do quick reads. It's all about reads, right? So I don't know if they remember last year for a coach, for a while, coach, they were doing those like half ice kind of like practices where it was just really kind of like reducing the size of the ice so that you had less time to react, so that you could kind of learn how to react faster in certain kind of game situations in practice. I didn't see them doing anything like that this year. I was kind of, maybe it's something that I know there's not going to be a lot of time to practice now because the schedule is going to be so busy. But I don't know if I agree, coach, like about pinning all this on a young decor. Like, I for sure it's a part of it, but I think there's something deeper, think something more about how they play
For,
as a
for me, I
five man.
don't see a lot of problem. I don't know. I don't
Wow.
see like they struggle a lot. The Capitals tied the
Look at
game
the
4-4.
look at the offensive zone time for the other teams against Montreal, coach. It's insane. It's so much
That's
higher.
because we don't put again. It's not defensive. It's not offensive
No, I'm
because
saying
we
the
don't control the
offensive.
puck in offensive zone. We don't keep the puck.
Yeah, because I think they actually do a decent job. Like, in terms of offensive zone, I don't find that I'm that concerned with what's happening there. They have good breakouts. They're a decent rush team. They're a little bit better this year at sustaining plays because you have players like Slavkovsky, Pearson, Harvey Pinard that are good at winning 50-50 battles in the offensive zone and recovering pucks, more so than players like Hoffman and Dadonov last year, which weren't doing a really good job of doing that. To me, when you look at the numbers and you see the amount of time that opposing teams are spending in Montreal's offensive zone, in some cases it's almost double the amount of time that Montreal is spending in the other offensive zone. To me, that doesn't mean, it's because they're not able to sustain time in the offensive zone. It's because they can't get out of their own zone. It's not because, like, if they were able to get out of their zone and make smarter neutral zone plays, then maybe, that would result in more time in the offensive zone. But to me, it's so what, if I'm understanding correctly, your hypothesis is that the reason that the other teams have more time in the offensive zone is because Montreal isn't extending their own offensive zone touches. Is that your theory?
No, my point is, like, when they got the puck, they don't control the puck enough. Like, you can see Devils yesterday, they exchange the puck movement left and right, go to down, they go back. We don't have enough experience as the defenseman to control in general all the puck position because we are not experienced as a defenseman. This is a problem. That's what the reason I'm talking about, where they struggle because of that. That's what I feel like, because you have no experience with defensemen, it affects your three zone constantly about that. And this is what they have. When you talk about, it's not normal. I respect he's a defense like him, but one is Albert Jacquet dominate your core C and your XGF. This is a problem. With all the respect I have for Jacquet, he should not be your best offensive defenseman of your team.
Yeah. No, for sure.
This is a big problem. Now, I would say another thing happening sometime when you talk about the defensive zone, they got caught. So when you talk about, like, when I said the experience of defenseman problem, like, if you have the puck, you play D, I'm a center. You have the puck. I'm flipping right away. I'm set up me for the breakout. But obviously, the time they hold the puck, not 6 seconds, I'm talking about 1 second, half second. They got pinched. They create already another turnover. And now I'm out me. I'm supposed to get a puck. And I don't
but they're
get
not. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, so listen, does it happen? Like I said, to me, the player I've seen do that the most is Harris. I find he's a little hesitant in his breakouts, and Kovacevic can do that sometimes a little bit too, where it looks like he might have an outlet, but he just hesitates a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's got another guy. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen. For sure it does happen.
Like,
but
look,
to me,
Madison, the goal of Madison. He tried to get out, and he got pinched on the wall. And the Washington scored the second goal, I think, from Strome. But Pearson was gone. Pearson was gone. He was expected to have a breakout, easy. But unfortunately, it turned around to be that. Washington guys scored 2 goals back-to-back, take the lead 5-4.
Crazy game. So listen, Coach, I'm not saying that what you're saying or what you've just described doesn't happen, but I think it's not the biggest problem. To me, the actions that are resulting in the most times stuck in our zone is this: defenseman gets the puck behind the net, looks around, doesn't see any options, so has to pass it back to his partner. Then if he does kind of, let's say he tries to ring it around and he hopes for the winger to chip it out at the blue line around the boards, the wingers are either not winning those battles, like the defenseman or the opposing team's defensemen are coming in, they're sitting on the winger and not allowing them to chip it in. A lot of times they're missing clears, especially on the penalty kill. Like, so many times, like, they should have easy touches to kind of clear the zone, but they fumble with it. They just don't seem very organized. So
yeah, for me, I point this because inexperience of the players, of the defensemen. I understand your point of view. I agree with you when you said they struggle on that one. But the experience of the defenseman does not help the Montreal Canadiens at that moment.
And you don't buy into
it. Looked like he struggled in Enortap, so he's not coming back.
Oh no. Okay. And Coach, you're not at all concerned with the man-on-man system that Montreal is using?
No.
Even though other teams are moving away from it?
No. Because they play 5 versus 5. Their 5 versus 5 is great.
It's not though. It's not.
5 versus 5, they are the top 10 in NHL differential goal.
But
Goal
why is
for
that?
against the goal against.
But that to me, that's gold. That's a mirage, coach. What you just said is a total mirage. That's Jake Allen. That's goaltending above, saving above goals expected.
But
That's
it's
not
been like this
real.
last year too. Yeah, but that's the part like Chesterkin, the Rangers, Sorokin with the
That's not
Islanders.
real
The
though.
goal, the GSV is over all the time. That's the goal.
But
The goal. But if you look about the 5 versus 5, it just score more goal 4
I
versus
know.
more again because they play 1 of 5 versus 5.
I know it's very hard to me. I know I sound crazy saying this, right? Because on paper, you're right. They have more goals. The goals for are great compared to the goals against 5-on-5. So I know it sounds like I'm crazy, but because the results lie, the results are not really showing what's happening. But when you really look at the 5-on-5 play, they're being dominated like for the most part. Like, yes, they have good, like I said, like I don't hate everything that they're doing. Like I find that they have really good rush
I have the
chances.
time, Marco. I'm going to come back Friday with that. I will give you that puck position a Montreal Canadiens on the 3 zone
Yeah,
offensive, defensive, and the opening team. I have this on my stat, so I can give it
let's
to
do
you
it.
about that one over there. So
Awesome.
we're going to go there. I don't, we can talk all night about this. It will be important to move on with
Yeah, I
other
don't know if people
conversation we
care about
have
this
here. Um, the Island, the Washington score under the goal guy is 6-4. That's crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy. Luke Lafortune just said 6-4 too. Right, we'll see. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. That'd be awesome. We talk about the result of the bowl game. I think you're absolutely right about the discipline, everything like that. So we're going to go a little bit because we have a lot to think about this. The app news and the injury, Savar. I want to hear a little bit more about what you think and the people in the chat. The impact of the David Savard injury. I'm going to show the video during the time you talk, Marco, so you'll be behind, but I'm sure you can
Yeah,
get this.
sure. Yeah. So listen, like I think I was watching this on Sportsnet when it happened, and it was all over the place on Twitter. I think people were calling this the shift of the year, so far in the NHL, because it was pretty crazy. So obviously the first shot that he blocks is probably where he broke his hand, and then like the true warrior that he is, he gets back up. I think that was the second shot that he blocks. His hand is probably already broken here, guys. I feel like this is almost like that JFK tape where you're kind of going back and dissecting how somebody gets injured. But so he takes a second shot. I think he still has his escape blade at this point here, but just gets back up, Energizer Bunny style, and just kind of keeps getting it, taking it on. So really an amazing. Whoops. So really amazing shift, and obviously he didn't come back after that. So in terms of what that means, I think coach, like really what this does is that it, other than the whole kind of like next man up mentality that you hear all the time, it's not one of those situations where we have somebody that this is gonna. It's not like one of our prospects like a Mayu or a Reinbacher are ready to come back in and use this as an opportunity or anything like that. This is just really bad for Montreal, because you can say what you want about Savard, like he's not an advanced stat darling for sure, but he does provide a lot of stability back there, even if it's just in the locker room, and just being kind of like a big brother to the other guys, right? So this is what this does basically is it makes everybody kind of like be in a chair that they shouldn't be in. You could argue that even Savard himself was in a chair that he shouldn't be in, right? Like he shouldn't be a top pairing right-handed defenseman on an NHL team playing 23 minutes a night. Like he should be at the most, like, a number maybe a number 4-5 defenseman, like number 4, not even really on most teams. So not only is he not in the right chair, but now you're asking somebody like Barron to come in. And, like, I think he had a really solid game last night for the most part. Like, obviously he has 2 goals. I think we all already know what Barron can do offensively. That's not really kind of the issue. Great kind of like vision out there, good outlet passes, and he can rip it. and it looks like they might give him a chance on the second power play unit. Certainly, they did at the end of the last game. Did you see that, Coach? I think it was one of the. I think it was the last. Oh yeah, here we're seeing Barron's goal from last night. Very similar to the goal that he scored against Buffalo too, right? Like just really good positioning.
It was
Knows
just
where
the
to.
other side.
Yeah, exactly. But just really good anticipation,
Yep.
and you can't teach that, right? Like, so really nice play by Barron. And what we miss here is that Pizzetta started this whole play by burying a guy early on. So it was a really nice, nice play overall. But I think the thing with Barron is not really his, his ability offensively or his ability to move the puck. It's just can he, play in the corners? Can he just play a little bit more aggressively and a little bit more assertively in his own zone? I think for him, if there's one person that's going to, this provides an opportunity for it. Certainly Justin Barron, right? Like he started off the year not on the active roster or on the roster, but not in the lineup. So great opportunity for him. We saw at points in the year last year when he first came back up from Laval, he had a pretty strong set of like maybe 4 or 5 games where he was really strong, and then you kind of saw him dip back down into some of those habits, right? So really good opportunity for him. What does that mean? Again, like, I don't think anybody thought Montreal was competing for a playoff spot this year, Coach. So it's not like, oh my God, our playoff chances are going to be damaged. What you just hope is that this doesn't, kind of like put players in positions they shouldn't be in, especially young players that you don't want them to lose their confidence and things like that, right? So it will be a challenge for the coaching staff to kind of manage that. That's why, like maybe some of us were questioning the utility of a guy like Lindstrom. Like why are they keeping that guy? Why didn't they just, kind of like, why did they even make that move? It's good. Like you already have Weidman that's injured. He would be a good depth option for this year. So having Lindstrom there, it's not a year that matters too much in terms of results. So I would rather expose somebody like Lindstrom than somebody like Mayu. So I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of people as surprised. Not a lot of people were upset that Mayu didn't get called up instead of Lindstrom. So to me, it means that Habs fans understand that it's good for Mayu to be down there. So I was happy to see that the fan base kind of reacted that way.
He's not ready at all. Like I think he's -5 or -8 whatsoever. Laval is not great. You have a
Yeah.
really difficult. If you watch his game with Laval Rocket right now, his cap control is behind. Like time to reaction, everything like that. He's learning on the trenches right now. You leave him 1 year. Now you can call up a little bit later, like Joshua Roy, maybe in February, March, or something like that, to just taste what he looked like the NHL. But right now, he's
Yeah.
better to get his 20-minute, 22-minute, whatever it is on the first pairing, and to
Yeah.
learn and to grow. And Adam Nicolas talk about this, like he show up every day at the Laval Rocket. Yesterday, he have an exercise where Sean Farrell beat him because the problem, like the Devils yesterday, if you gave space, and when he said space, so he gave the player to have space to have more time. What like a goal of I think it was 240 tonight. The Washington Capitals go backwards and they are worried because it's Jack Hughes, right? So you don't
Yeah.
know what he's going to do. So what happening? You don't want to jump on the play. Now if you don't do that, you open space, and that's the problem. So Farrell beat him yesterday at the practice because he did not cover very well his cap control. So Adam Nicolas explained to him, and then he stopped the drill, redo it again, and then Mayu get it. So it's just a
Yeah.
learning process for him. Any
Yeah.
young player like Farrell, Roy, Mayu, Strobel, all those player guys should not play with Montreal Canadiens before 2024. Like after January, February, every time that.
Yeah. So to me, Coach, I think at this point, I wouldn't even put a number on it. When during training camp, this is the way that I kind of see Mayu's situation is. I think that he has all the physical tools to play in the NHL right now. The physical tools, skating, all the physical tools, right? So to me, it's just I don't know how long it's going to take him to learn those things. It might take a year, it might take 2 years, but it might also just be like 40 games from now in Laval, he might suddenly pick it up faster than we think. It really depends how coachable he is, and how open he is to those ideas, right? So I don't know how long it will take him to do that, but I think it's it's better to be conservative and tell fans that, like, yeah, you know what, like we might not see Mayu till next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if, again, like Jean-François Houle is a good coach, and working with Francis Bouillon, working with all those guys, it really depends how open he is, how coachable he is, right? Because that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion, with Mayu, anyways.
But remember, like if you think about this, like Chirecek, Mezek, is it Nemec,
Nemec,
Chirecek,
yeah.
Matt Dubulin, the ex New Jersey Devils now with the San Jose Sharks, right? Those players that draft high in the first round, like second, fifth. Madabulin, I believe, is 20 when he got drafted by the Devils, right? They stay in the American League, Marko, minimum 2 years, like 2 years. And we talk about better skill, talented players. And the same way unique. So for me, Mayu is a prince. It's a 2 years project for me before it become a play. Now, you can jump in there. They play a couple of games, no problem. But for him, for me,
maybe like you could be right. You could be right. Like I just don't like to put a limitation on it, right? Like if he's able to pick up on, if he learns how to play the right way faster than we anticipate, great. It could happen. It really, like I said, it really depends how, like when you're dealing with people, like you hear Guy Boucher talk about this like a lot when he was on Angers over the last couple of years, right? It's all about how coachable players are. Some players just pick it up faster than others, right? So we don't really know too much about Logan Mailloux. Let's see how he does. But you're right. Comparing it to some other players, organizations have different philosophies. Coach, did you hear while we're talking about player development and different strategies? Did you see kind of what Anaheim is doing with
with Leo Carlson? So
like the load
what
management.
happening with him now? They let him play 2 games per week.
Load management.
Yeah, and it's not bad at all. Like
it's an interesting concept. Yeah,
it's a new thing, and to adapt at the style of the hockey, right? Because those players don't play 80 games every 2 nights, everything like that. So it's a period adaptation. Secondly, for me, what I like of this, Marko, but for me, it's like you can learn from the top. Like it's not like you don't. Like, if you go to the game, you watch the game from the top. It's very good because you can see the movement of the players from the top. You can see the system, how he works, everything like that. He practices the next morning. It's not a bad idea at all. Like I like that.
I'm surprised the Montreal media hasn't somehow made
ask
a parallel
this question or whatever it is for
Slavkovsky, right? Like, so it's an interesting premise. Like, I think sports fans in general in Canada became familiar with the term load management when it was Kawhi Leonard in Toronto with the Raptors. It was kind of like a new concept, right? Like you have this player who, has these injury problems. So you really want him to be optimized and be ready for the playoffs. So you really manage his minutes, right? It's not something you see in hockey very much, right? But based on the fact that we're, diving more into analytics, teams have these big analytical groups and departments now. You wonder, in Montreal, Hughes said this, both Gordon and Hughes talked about leveraging analytics, not only in terms of, kind of tactical things during a game, but how they develop players. So I would like Montreal to kind of put some thought into that, right? Like maybe it is good for Slavkovsky to only play 1 out of every 3, or only play 2 out of every 3 games. So, but it's interesting that nobody in Montreal has brought that up because I think it's interesting what they're doing in Anaheim.
Absolutely about that. I saw this on the TV yesterday about that. Yeah. But let's move on for other subject, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget to click on the like if you are new here or you just pop up. We will welcome you. I saw John Gregor, Dan Asham knocked the door. Nicholas is with us tonight. Many Larry Langston Jr. and many others, guys. If I did not mention your name, I apologize. But don't forget, guys, click on the like. We appreciate that. Sharing this on your social media. We need to increase a number of subscribers. And we thank each one of you to be a part of the show. Participate to the chat. More conversation you bring on the chat, more people are involved and more fun it is for everybody. If they want to come back anytime. Let's move on to the next subject. And I have this for you guys. you talk about this, but Montreal concern who they are. This is one of my poll question today. Discipline, the right side defenseman, the special team, and any other concern you have about the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I like, I feel like I've been so negative in this in the show already, Coach. But kind of like I was saying, like I think I was pretty vocal about kind of what my concerns are. It's really about being able to kind of exit their zone more efficiently. I think all these things that you're talking about, like they all stem from their inability to really kind of get going forward more. Get out of their zone quicker, spend less time in your zone, spend less time defending by defending better. It means that you'll have more time in the offensive zone, less time where you're chasing people, taking stupid penalties, sticking infractions, things like that. Your energy level will be better because you're not wasting it. Always kind of like trying to correct an error from a teammate and thing like that. So it's kind of like I said, it's a chicken and the egg effect, right? Like which came first? Are they taking too many penalties because they're tired, or are they tired because they're taking too many penalties? Like where is it? And this is, I think, a really big, should be a really big focus by the coaching staff. So yeah, it is a huge concern. Montreal by far. Until like we just played a couple games, 3 games in 4 nights. But before that, we were one of the teams that had played the least amount of games, but we were leading the NHL in penalty minutes, and so the most by far, penalty minutes per game than in the whole NHL. So what does that say? Like it means that I don't think it's just the players are indisciplined. It means that I think there's something deeper to it, right? Like there are some cases where, and here's another thing, Coach, I've thought about, right? Like, that Saint Louis wants to play a really fast, aggressive puck pressure game. A lot of these stick penalties, they're not always necessarily kind of like somebody who's lazy that's kind of hooking somebody from behind. A lot of the plays are aggressive plays where like you have, say, Harvey Pinard, I think in the last game was a good example, right? So he's in on the forecheck and he's trying to he has a stick in front of him because he's trying to pressure the defense, right? And that's how we want to play. We want to be an aggressive puck pressure team, similar to the Hurricanes. It's a very similar style of play. So, but maybe there's, when you play that style where you're being very aggressive with your stick, trying to kind of like win battles, not every player is good at doing that. Harvey Pinard is one of the better ones of doing that, but it's kind of like what we've talked about with Anderson, right? That's a big debate with Martin Saint Louis. A lot of people have is, can you train hockey IQ, right? Like, well, can you train certain players to be good with their sticks? Like Jonathan Drouin is a perfect example, right? Like one of the things I found the most frustrating watching Jonathan Drouin is like he only won like 5% of his like battles along the boards. And that doesn't mean that you're always nailing somebody, you're hitting them like with your body. It's just positioning your stick in the right way, being heavy on the puck in different situations. And I find like it's a very undercoached thing in the NHL, in my opinion. I think it might have been Michel Therrien that used to sometimes, and I'm sure the players hated it when he did these practices, but it was like a whole practice of just one-on-one battles, right? Like just battling one-on-one in the corner, learning how to position your stick. I'm not sure Adam Nicholas, if that's something that he's really focused on from a skills development perspective. I'm sure the skills development is more really on offensive stuff, more so than puck battles. But like, wouldn't it be interesting if they hired somebody like a Mike Keane, or like somebody like kind of like somebody who is really good defensive player to come in and coach players on how to win battles, how to win stick battles, how to position your stick in the corner so that you can come away with the puck, right? So I feel it's a bit of an undercoached thing, and maybe if they did that, then maybe we'd be taking less sticking penalties that are kind of causing these issues.
For me, it's like it's just like Jakai. He got 3 penalty right now because roughing. Yeah, no reason to do that. Gallagher Monahan last game, they put the stick inside the skate of the players. No reason to do that. 200 feet. So a lot of penalty is because of awareness. It's about to be more smart, to be more smarter. Now you have to think about this. You have a trend now in hockey right now in the NHL. They give penalties. Like it's not called usually, but they call it right now. So if you think about that, yesterday you got power play for both team. That's the normal in the NHL now. Whatever who they are in NHL. So my point behind that, so he spent 16 minutes at least at or 20 minutes. So one period of the game, you not play 5 versus 5. So now
Yeah.
the hockey is almost like play in 3 line. So you have to adjust your TOI for everything. That's why people say, why I didn't play on the PK? Why this player play on the PK? It's because if they don't do that, you're going to those other players are going to play 20 minutes per game
Yeah.
now and
Yeah.
more
Perfect example.
because you play 20 minutes per game on special team, Marco.
Yeah. Perfect example with like, look at what's happening in Toronto. So this year, the big buzz in the Toronto was Matthews is going to kill penalties this year. Okay. And listen, a lot of teams have tried that philosophy, like your best player is killing penalties. But look at the first like 5 games for Toronto. Matthews and Marner are playing like 25 minutes a game. And, like their bottom six is not getting into the game. And Toronto has, I don't think many people in Leafs land would say that they've had a particularly strong start to the season here, right? Like not a great record. And certainly I watching some of their games, I find like, okay, like, yeah, Matthews is definitely a threat when you're killing penalties, but it's, like the Oilers are the same way, right? Like, in the past, like, some of the exit interviews that they did with some of the players in the seasons where they got eliminated, some of the criticism from the players that were leaving was that they didn't feel like they were contributing to the team, right? Like like, the top 4 players on the team are on the ice like 40% of the game. So
Yeah.
you're 100% right, right? Like you need to give people a role. And I remember people laughed at me last year when I was at the beginning of last year. I suggested, why wouldn't you try putting Jonathan Drouin, giving him the responsibility of killing penalties? Just give him a responsibility that he can focus on. We'll give him more ice time. It'll maybe give him some confidence, and then maybe that spills over into the rest of his game, right? So I agree. Like, and I said that at the beginning of the training camp. I said during training camp, if you want to know who's going to make the team out of the players that are on the bubble, look at who St. Louis and the coaching staff are using on PK, because that's going to be a huge indicator as to who's going to actually make the team, because those are the kind of roles that they need to fill, because they don't have a lot of guys that can fill that role. And as long as Pizzetta can continue to do okay at that, and Yolonen, then I think that's why people always question, like, well, why is Pizzetta in the lineup? Well, it's hard to argue that he's been very effective in the games that he's been there, right? Like he does his role beautifully. He can kill penalties. Like he won't be like he won't be on the first pair of forwards that you put out there, right? But he can come in at the end of the PK and kill like maybe 30 seconds for you, right? So 100%, like you need to have everybody kind of contributing by having specific roles.
All right, let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about, guys. Are you concerned? We just talked about this, but I'm concerned about front player have 0 goals so far after 6 games. Nick Suzuki, 3 assists. Josh Anderson, 1 assist. Juraj Sikorsky, 1 assist. And RHP, I think is 2 or 3 assists. I think it's 2. But all the 4 are 0. Oh, but coach, you have 0 goal on this 6 game. Here's the point about that. Suzuki, first line. Sikorsky, second line. Anderson, RHP, most of the time they play top 6 right now. Maybe one game they play bottom 6. But are you concerned about that? Like those players, why they don't get goal and why they not play at the level they should play? Because right now I don't feel like all 4 play. I'm not saying they play bad, but they should play better.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, let me tackle this one step at a time here. Like I think over the last, I know there's been a lot of focus on Suzuki in the Montreal marketplace. I was talking about it maybe like a week or 2 even before everything blew up here. Like I didn't like his training camp that much. I think we were debating about it. Like you weren't as concerned with his overall play. Like I think we had a big debate in the chat about whether he was cheating or not and all that stuff. So I haven't really liked the beginning of the season. I am concerned, not just the fact that he hasn't scored. I just don't like his overall game right now at all. Maybe we save that for a whole other topic because that's a really big one, Nick Suzuki in general. Looking at the other guys, like, I think Anderson's kind of been up and down. Like overall, I like his energy, but he's had some good chances. I think it's going to come for him. It's just a matter of time. Slavkovsky, again, I don't really care too much about his production, to be honest. I really like his game last game. I think I was watching your post game show last night, Coach, and you put Slavkovsky. You're like, who showed up last night? You didn't see where was Caulfield, where was Suzuki, and you mentioned Slavkovsky. I thought Slavkovsky had a really good game. To me, he was probably the most one of the more engaged forwards for Montreal against New Jersey. He was really physical, won a lot of his puck battles. So I like Slavkovsky's game, but I think it would be great for his confidence for sure if he would put one in. And Harvey Pinard, I think, he's had a lot of like grade A scoring chances. Like he's had a couple of breakaways, missed some chances. So I think it will come for him too. So, but I know your point overall here is, yikes, what does this mean for our top six, right? But I'm not too concerned about it because even if these players are still there in the top six, like specifically when it comes to Slavkovsky is not a finished product, right? So I'm not evaluating him as a finished product. I suspect that he will be more productive. But from the beginning, I've said that I don't think everybody keeps talking about, Slavkovsky, he's going to be a goal scorer. No, he's not really a goal scorer. I know he had, he led the World Championships in goals, or what was it, the Olympics or the World Championships? One of the tournaments, he led the tournaments in goals. And I'm not saying that he's not going to score goals, but the biggest superpower he has is more as a playmaker and somebody who, like, he's like a playmaking power forward more than a sniper. He's not going to score that many goals. So if the concern here is, there's not enough goal scoring in the top six right now, 100%, I agree with you. But the solution, isn't probably in this lineup right now. But I think that's okay for this year. Like it's, we're going to, I'm so far, to be honest, like I haven't really been that concerned with the offensive side of Montreal's game. I think they're creating a lot of interesting things on the rush. They are not as one and done as maybe last year at certain points. Like they're able to kind of recover pucks. And, I think Gallagher's, kind of like had a bit of a resurgence here over the last couple of games. To me, the last thing I'm concerned about is goal scoring at this stage. Now, but you're talking more in the long term, right? Like not for the season, Coach. Is that kind of what you're concerned about?
Yeah. Well, if you think about that, like they're all top six, right? Forward. And I think that's my biggest concern. That's the reason why the Kirby Duck injury hurt the Montreal Canadiens, because now you remove, three players you cannot lose. It was Doc, Suzuki, and Caulfield. They played three major key in the top six of the Montreal Canadiens. If you lose one, they don't have anybody to pick it up as the top six, because now Monahan play on the third line. If Monahan should be there, that will helping them for sure. But again, what I can see after 6 games now is RHP and Josh Anderson are honestly at bottom six players. You cannot have both of them on the top six or at any moment.
No, if these players are going to be in your top six 2 years from now, then I don't think Montreal is competing for a playoff spot, right? Like I don't think you'll get a lot of people arguing with you that Josh Anderson on a contending team is not a top six forward. People say, "Oh my God, how would you pay him $5.5 million a year if he's not a?" Well, $5.5 million a year isn't going to get you a top six forward in today's NHL. Like that's a decent for a 20-something goal scorer, like an 18 to 22 goal scorer. That's physical, that can do different things. I think that's not a terrible contract. People seem to think Anderson's contract is awful. I think it's okay, especially once the cap goes up. So I think, Anderson, if he continues to score 18 to 20 goals for the next couple years, really good for your bottom or for your middle nine, kind of like players. He can, for a more physical game, you could put him in the top six if you wanted to, but I agree. Like he's not going to be somebody that's going to be in your top six. Harvey Pinard had a really strong end to the season last year, but listen, like I don't think anybody envisioned that he's going to be a top six forward when Montreal's ready to. Washington just won. Wow, good big win for them. They really needed that. Yeah. So really, to me, the only player on this list that I'm really genuinely concerned about at this stage is Suzuki. Now, do I have confidence that he'll get out of it? Yes, right. But because, like I've said time and time again, we know that Suzuki can play the right way. We saw him do it in the playoffs all the way up to the Stanley Cup final. He knows how to play. You don't get to the Stanley Cup final, and you could say that he was really the second line center then, because Deno was pretty much playing first line center, but he played against a lot of top teams, right? Like top lines on the other team, and he played well on both sides of the puck. So, like I said, to me, Suzuki, if he turns out to be like a 65, 70 point player, that is a plus player, that is really good 5-on-5, that's going to be a really good player for us, and I'd be completely happy with that. But he's never going to be a 30 goal scorer, guys. He's not going to be a 30 goal scorer.
Next thing is about same situation. Do you split Caulfield or Suzuki?
I don't think you need to do that yet. I think maybe at some point in the season it might be. I would have definitely been tempted to experiment with that if Doc was healthy, right? But at this point here, what would be the benefit of putting Suzuki with someone else, right? Like what are you testing? The whole point of testing something is to see if there's a viable alternative to what you already know works. So that Suzuki and Caulfield works, and I say that in quotation marks to a certain extent. It would work better if they had somebody completing their line a little bit more effectively. But the only reason that you're really choosing, or that you would want to do an experiment, think of it like a science experiment. You don't just do experiments just for the sake of experimenting. You're experimenting because you want to measure a result and repeat it so that you can make sure that you're getting the same results, so that you can understand what it means. So if you're going to try to put Caulfield with somebody else, who are you putting him with right now? Monahan at center? Like, Monahan's not going to be there potentially next year, especially if they trade him at the trade deadline. You're going to put him with Newhook at center. I don't see them really being a good fit playing together over the long term, because they're both kind of smallish players. So maybe in the long term, if Doc would have been here all season, I think a lot of us would have been interested to maybe experiment to see what it would look like to have Caulfield and Doc play together. But for now, for this season, coach, based with what's happening, I just don't see any value in doing it, unless they continue to see that these bad habits are creeping in, and maybe you want to shock them a little bit, and shock their system, and just let them know that, guys, like, you guys as a duo are not untouchable. So unless it's like a message that you're sending them, I just don't see a strategic advantage necessarily to do it this year.
Yeah, about that, for sure. I'm sorry. It's too hard for me not to hold myself now, so I put a comments in the chat. So, we'll see if the Caulfield and Suzuki situation, what happening. The biggest problem with that is who play with that part over there, right? Who is going to play this? There are players about that. That's what bring me to bring that. So you see my subject, follow up, everything. I put you on the hot seat tonight about that. For that. Who do you feel like? Do you think it's time to try Juraj Sikorsky? Because they try everybody. Alex Newhook, they bring Pearson now. They bring, and the fact like Sikorsky is sit at that chair, there was a connection between him and Doc. Now Dak is gone. Now if you split Caulfield and you split Suzuki, Suzuki can go with Sakaski, and you can bring Caulfield with Monahan, and you can split those. But at the end of the day, or do you bring Sakaski with Caulfield and Suzuki? But not for one game or two games. This is my biggest problem.
Yeah.
And now, if you want to testing someone with them, let them play 10 game. Let them play.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, Coach, but I was ready to start doing that last year. Like what my thing would have been last year. Like that was, remember when we talked about what would we like Saint Louis to maybe do different this year? A little bit more in-game adjustment, right? So, I don't know if you saw the game the same way I did. Like based on what you said after the game last night, you didn't seem to like Slavkovsky's game, but I felt he was very physically engaged. Now he was a little hesitant with the puck still. Like, there was a time where he was wide open and he's still kind of second guessing himself. His timing is not quite there yet. But in terms of like physical engagement, winning puck battles, being also, and one of the things with the Suzuki line is that you need somebody that's going to be really defensively responsible. And if there's one thing you can say about Slavkovsky so far is that he back checks hard, man, like really hard. He's pretty responsible defensively. He's usually on the right side of the puck, right? So I would have loved to see them already doing that, like finding times in the game where, if you see that Harvey Pinard or Anderson is not working, nothing's happening on that line, why not throw him up there for like the end of the third period? If you see that he's playing well, if he's got his legs and he's playing well, try it. So they should have been doing that already, but what's done is done. We can't change the past. Moving forward, though, like you said, with kind of where we are now, with how things are set up, I don't like, let's not lie to each other. Why did they draft Slavkovsky? They drafted him to play with Suzuki and Caulfield. Everybody, like, they even asked him that during the draft. They in his interview process, they asked him about that. Caulfield and Suzuki were asked about it in last year's training camp. I think everybody in the hockey world understood, okay, the reason that they're drafting Slavkovsky is they need somebody to play with Caulfield and Suzuki. So I get that they want to not, put him in a position to fail. And then like, if you put him up there and it doesn't work right away, then maybe it's like, okay, now you have to demote him. But listen, like, the only way that you're going to kind of learn anything, like you said, is by experimenting with it and give him a chance. Like, again, guys, I know some of you are not going to be happy to hear this, but results, like, only matter to a certain extent this season, right? Really what matters, and I know fans, this really grates on people's nerves because they want to win now and everything else, right? So I get it. It's very repetitive for us to say this, but it's really about the process, and it's all about learning what you have right now, right? So, Coach, I think you're absolutely right. It's something that they should try, absolutely, for a set of games. I think would be a great confidence boost for him. I think his style of play matches exactly what they need. They need somebody who can kind of like win puck battles along the boards, be physical, in certain situations. And I think he does have the intelligence to play with them enough. Again, like he's not there yet. Like his process, we talked about this. The key thing with Slavkovsky, it's his processing speed, right? Like he doesn't process the game fast enough, but that will come with time. I honestly believe that. So I think you're 100% onto something there.
The only thing I would say to you, Marco, is like people said, yeah, but they don't have the winger, right? And they need a winger. I don't think so. They need a winger. Caulfield Suzuki should helping the winger play with them. It's not the winger should helping both to produce. Does it make sense? Like
it does, but Caulfield. Did you see there? By the way, now that you mentioned that, there was something. I think it was the Habs Reddit account on Twitter today. Apparently, there was an anonymous quote from a player in the league that was basically saying that most of the league considers Suzuki to be a superior player to Caulfield. Caulfield, is pretty one-dimensional. Suzuki, kind of contributes in other ways, but has somewhat similar production to Caulfield. So 100%, I like Suzuki, and that's why I'm a little bit critical of him. he is somebody that should be making his lineups, his line mates better. Caulfield is not that kind of guy. Caulfield is a finisher. I was hoping that he would try to add other elements to his game. He got a little bit stronger. Like if you see his upper body, he's definitely a little bit bigger. But coach, I don't think he's ever going to be somebody that is going to be able to win puck battles. Maybe he'll be a little bit better with his positioning. I don't think a player like Caulfield is necessarily going to make his teammates better. He's somebody that's going to finish. And it's not to say that like people might hear me say that and think I'm saying that he can't be a good playmaker. He's absolutely a good passer and he can make good plays. He's not just a sniper. Like he can play hockey, right? But he's not somebody that's going to necessarily make his teammates better, other than the fact that he might put it in the net once they put it on a stick. But somebody like Caulfield, this is how I see the dynamic, right? Caulfield is a finisher for the most part. He can still make plays, but he doesn't create enough of his own chances because of his own size. Suzuki is a distributor, right? But he doesn't have enough speed to be somebody that opens up a lot of ice. But he's a very good distributor of the puck. So what you really need on that line, and maybe that's why St. Louis keeps trying Anderson in that spot, they need somebody with a little bit more speed and that can win puck battles to kind of complete that chemistry on that line. So on paper, you see Anderson play, and he looks like he might have those things, but he just doesn't have. The joke that I keep making is that Josh Anderson is like a 2005 iPhone, like an iPhone 5. So can you still text on it and can you still make calls on it? Yes. But if you install, new apps on it, it's not going to work very well on that phone, right? So Josh Anderson is kind of like a old school phone. It's very good to do basic things, but don't try to install fancy shit on it because it's not going to work. So Slavkovsky, in theory, has all the other traits that I just mentioned that will potentially be able to mix well with those two guys. So I get it, coach. Like that is something you hear a lot. Like, shouldn't elite players make players around them better? I think that's right about Suzuki. I don't think that will ever be true about Caulfield.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. I'm going to just read a couple of comments about the people. It's great to see that. We welcome back Pierre Martin and Willie Snyder. Both of you, thanks to be with our Hockey Nation show. Don't forget, guys, to click on the like. That'd be awesome. Great comments. I think I have a great subject tonight to sharing that, all of you. We appreciate that. We miss Mr. Enortap, stuck somewhere between internet about that one over there. It's not like we are negative about Nizuki. At the end of the day, for me, he should produce more. That's it. That's all. He don't like the last game. He struggled again. It's not like he played bad, but that's the player we expect more. He's the highest salary for the Montreal Canadiens. He should bring more on the table, not on the productivity, but create more space. Make playmaker, playmaking play, and open door. And that's for me. I don't see that right now for Suzuki. I understand he's doing well on face-off, but again, this is your best player. He should be there at that moment. Pierre Martin talked about Mike Madison, New Hook, Pearson, everything like that. I'll be honest with you guys. Mike Madison, he have a so-so season so far. It's not great. He's not like he was play last season. Last year, it was dominate, like on both sides of the game. Offensively, carrying the puck, create opportunities, make other players behind him better. Right now, he does not do this. Struggling on the defensive zone, lose battle. And the reason behind that, I think he played too many minutes. He played, for me, 4 or 5 minutes too much minute on the ice. And the reason why, Montreal don't have enough defensemen to carry on everything on the special team. So now he's a unit number 1. He back on the PK. He play on the 5 versus 5. He has 16, 20 minutes per game on special team, Marko. This guy is burned. And you play right now 3 games and 4 nights, and 4 games and 6 nights, and then you're going to get 5 games and 10 nights. You cannot play 25 minutes more. We don't talk about Marko, one of the best defensemen in NHL now. You know what I mean? Like he played like he tried to be a number one, but he is not. He's more like a
He's not.
second pairing. I understand he played well last year, but right now it's not the same like Mike Madison. He got back from an injury. I understand that, but for me, it's just the coincidence before me is a TOI.
Yeah, like and you know that old expression, coach, it's like it's not just the years, but it's the mileage, right? So it's not even just the amount of minutes that he's playing, but it's the type of minutes that he has to play too, right? Like I keep harping on this, right? But when you get locked into your zone and you're getting crashed into on the forecheck all the time, if most of those minutes were him just kind of like in the neutral zone, just kind of like floating around out there. But if you look at Montreal, they're chasing the puck in their zone. It's like little hamsters on a wheel, right? Like, coach, like if you ask two teams, if you have two teams that are on the ice for an entire penalty, right? The PK and the PP, who's going to be more tired at the end of the penalty, the PK or the PP?
So again,
Okay, so we're talking about how players. I was just saying about Mike Matheson, right? So if he, it's not just the amount of minutes he's playing; it's a type of minutes that he's playing. So because of this, of what I've been describing, how Montreal's always stuck in their zone, it's like a hamster stuck in a wheel, right? So the example the question I was asking is, if you have two teams playing on a penalty, right, and they play the whole 2 minutes, by the end of the 2 minutes, who's going to be more tired, the PP unit or the PK unit?
the PK.
Exactly. Right. So that's how so for Matheson, it's not just the amount of minutes, it's what he needs to do during those minutes. If Montreal was getting out of their zone easily and they were spending more time in the offensive zone, or if there was more time in the neutral zone, those minutes wouldn't be as taxing as well. Right. So there's no way that this type of utilization of Matheson, and guys, remember what my headline was: dominoes. It's all dominoes. So if Montreal keeps playing the way that they're playing, Matheson will have to continue to play 27 minutes a game. He'll do that over the next 10 games. And guess what? He'll get injured. And guess what? Now, so this is all how it starts, right? So it's all connected, guys. Too many
Piling your
penalties.
dominoes.
Those are the dominoes. It starts with how you play defensively, and everything kind of tumbles backwards from that. So I agree. Very concerned about what's going to happen. Like, he already wasn't having an amazing start to the year, and now it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. So they need to figure it out quickly, for sure.
Absolutely about that. And then, of course, you have to black shot, right? And black shot bring you to get hurt at the same time.
Exactly.
Patrick Leblanc, Sakowski should play on the PK, long stock, deception speed. It can on the play, learn to play hockey. It's too young yet, I would say to you, Patrick. Maybe in the future, they tried this with Josh Anderson at 27, 28 years old. But I think a little bit longer, there will be something you have to look about that one over there. Darlin in the top of the how far he skates during a game, not only 9 a minute. I would say is a strength, but Madison should not play that much minute away. Punch injury with it isn't going to be long project A2 about this. People consider. Don't forget, guys, click on the likes. So let's move on. We have a lot of subject, guys, I can bring to you guys. I think you're going to enjoy the show tonight for sure. Let's move on. Not yet, Mr. Marko, about this one there. It was my headlines, but I want to bring to you now in the conversation what we do now, what Montreal should do. Primo decision, out or not, Montembeault, Adam, trade not. Are you concerned about Montembeault performance so far? Jake Allen is number one. Can he keep him like number one spot? All the stuff together, and give us a little bit what you think about it. Is it the you said Montembeault is going, or Enortap says he's going to get over 50 games?
Yeah, that was me.
It was you? Okay. I don't want
still
to
think
go against you. I just remember someone said that to me.
Yeah. I still think that could happen for sure. Like, listen, Allen in the past is, he can, like, there's no question that when he doesn't play too many games in a row, he can be an effective goaltender in the NHL. I don't doubt that to be the case, right? But if you ask Allen to play 8 out of the next 10 games, I don't think you're going to see the same results, right? Or he's going to get injured. So either way, I think I think Montembeault will probably end up still playing a lot of games, but we'll see how that goes. In terms of the situation, it's not, Montreal is not the only team. Did you see what John Cooper said? I think was in an interview. He's like, yeah, we've noticed that there's a lot of teams carrying 3 goalies. I wonder if that's because of us, because so you can see Tampa knows that they're causing all these other teams to kind of like do acrobatics with their rosters, right? So that was kind of funny. But Montreal's not the only team, carrying 3 goaltenders, but it's like we've talked about, Coach. It's not ideal at all. Again, Primo had a really good game. He probably didn't make their situation much easier. There was kind of a theory going around yesterday, like, why would you play Primo against the Devils? Maybe you were hoping that he gets torched and just looks terrible, so that way he's easier to put back and nobody takes him on waivers, right? But if that was the plan, it didn't go super well because he had a highlight reel save where he dove across the net, so it probably made SportsCenter, and so if that was their plan, then it didn't work super well. Primo had a good game, but again, like I wouldn't say that he outclassed Allen or Primo. Like, I think he was good. I think probably one of his best NHL level games that I've seen him play, which is great. So what they do here, like, honestly, Coach, I really don't know. I don't suspect that they're going to be trading Allen. There was, I think, on another podcast, there was a big debate about whether Allen has like a certain amount of value, and maybe he does. Maybe later in the season, depending on certain situation, maybe Allen does. If he continues to play like this, maybe a team would be convinced to kind of take a flyer on him. But having 2 more years on this deal, I think is a lot maybe for some teams to kind of take on. But I don't know what they're going to do here, Coach. At some point, I would be shocked if they spend another couple months with this. But if they've went this, here's a good way to frame the question. If they've already went this far with protecting Primo this way, they're not just going to change their mind tomorrow, right? Like they're waiting for something to happen. So I would be surprised if they just try to sneak in Primo at this point. So really what that means is that they're probably trying to find a trade destination for Primo. That would be my guess, that they're trying to trade Primo at this point. But I just don't see.
And I think what they try to do, I don't know, but I read comments in the chat, everybody, everything like that. The problem now, and more we talk about this, is really because of Laval Rocket. So if let's say we trade Primo gone. If Adam Montembeault get hurt, we don't have anybody. So maybe they try to trade Primo to get a goaltender experience and a hockey professional playing the American Hockey League before, and he can be a backup as an NHL. Louis Domingue, I'm thinking right now with him right now. An example like that, right? You can give me more name and I can understand. I will be yes. But that's what they're looking for. Because right now the backup they have, it's it's not a man is going to be a goaltender, not at all. And Dobesh, he's still not ready to play in NHL. So this is maybe they're looking for to make some kind of security at least and in American Hockey League if ever happened in Montreal. But now they have something because last year and the year before that and the year before that they have Primo. So if something happened to one goaltender, you can bring Primo as a backup and sit there. But right now, they don't have anybody. And this may be the reason why they're hanging there. They try to find the best solution. But for me right now, more I'm talking to you, everybody in the chat, trade Primo and get a goaltender. I think the Flyers, everything like that. I know Peterson carry on a $5.5 million salary cap. But I think it could be right now a goaltender like that I'm talking about. Don't forget, worry about the salary cap, but a goaltender like that where you can have those kind of security if ever happen to one of the goaltender.
Make a big splash and go get Malcolm Subban. Get another Subban in the Habs lineup, right? Like that would be a fun story. But yeah, like I think if there's one thing you could, and this wasn't really, well, I guess this was during the Hugo era, but like I think they really mismanaged Primo, especially last year, because Primo is not the kind of third goalie that you want in your organization, right? Like if they really thought Primo was potentially a goalie of the future, he's not the one that you want to call up to back up if your backup is injured, right? Like in the at the NHL level. You're the third goaltender in your organization should be somebody that you have. It's kind of like your seventh defenseman, like a Lindstrom or a Weidman, right? It should be a guy that you have no problem sitting on the bench eating hot dogs for many days in a row, right? So unfortunately, because they didn't have somebody like that, like when Allen got hurt in the past, or even when in years before when Price was hurt and Allen had to take over for number one, poor Primo, who the plan for him was supposed to be playing tons of games for Laval, he's sitting on the bench going back and forth, not playing. So it's just been a very poorly managed. If I was his agent, I wouldn't be super happy with with how things have worked out for him. Now, again, he hasn't taken full advantage of the opportunities he's had at the NHL level, other than last night. I think he had a really strong game last night, but he hasn't been put in a very position to succeed. I can say that much.
But it would be quiet because he get good money in American in the NHL right now, and he
That's
fly
true.
by plane and not by bus. So that's he said I
I
prefer
guess
to be with
that's a
Montreal
very
about that.
short term.
But talking
That's a
about
very
this, another
short term.
another not another subject, but the fact you have three players right now, right there, right, three goalies. He take a spot of one skater. Cooley is coming back now. Imagine right now they cannot carry on seven defensemen because they have three goalies. Somehow
Yeah.
from tonight until next trip, it's going to be Monday or Sunday. They have to figure out something. Goalie is ready. It's funny, goalie. Everybody said he have a problem with the arm or the wrist. He had nothing there, guys. He showed the puck like at 100 miles per hour. I feel he have other thing inside of upper body. He got hurt at some point. Howsoever it is, they have to figure out this very soon, this week, and then after that, the work's coming back. So for the next 10 days, for me, the situation with Rigoldor will be they're going to find a solution.
Yeah, we went through this a lot last year, right? Like really, we thought it's kind of like in one of those action movies when you have like a ticking clock and oh my god, we have to disarm the bomb before the timer ends up. Well, what happens usually in Montreal the last year is you think they're running out of time and they're gonna run out of roster spots, but then somebody else gets injured, right? So based on precedence, like it feels like we're about to get a roster crunch because some of those returning players. But who knows? Based on what we've seen, maybe they'll get injured, another injury or something like that. But if something like that doesn't happen, then yeah, it might force their hand. On the topic of Goalie, though, they better make sure that he's 100%, man. Like, there's no reason to rush that guy. If he's not 100% healed from whatever the hell that thing was, if there's one thing that we've learned from Gallagher, Monahan last year, and Goalie, remember Goalie like came back too early last year as well, and they got re-injured. So let's see if this medical team has learned anything from the mistakes of last year's medical team. There's no reason to rush Goalie back, especially with the fact that he's missed so much time over the last 2 years. Let's just make sure like he better be 100% ready to go. There's no reason to rush that guy back.
Well said about that one over there. Very quickly, we still have a couple of more minutes, so we can go, guys. Stay in the chat. Don't forget to click on the like if you don't mind. Great, we appreciate a lot. New people pop up, and we welcome you guys. I want to talk a little bit about this very quickly, maybe 1-2 minutes. Preview game, Columbus Blue Jacket, and Winnipeg Jet. What your expectation? I know we talked a little bit last Sunday night, but sometimes change. You was not there Sunday, so sometimes everything changed on the preview. So what do you expect Columbus Blue Jacket for the Montreal and Winnipeg?
Yeah, well, I think my prediction for this week was 0-4, so I'm already wrong. I guess that Buffalo game kind of threw me off a little bit, but yeah. So for this one, like so for Columbus, like, again, it's not usually a team that I feel we would match up well against. Like, they play a pretty. They used to play heavy, but maybe it's just in my mind. I think Columbus, and I think they play heavy, right? I haven't seen a lot of their games this year, but I know that Line is not there. Elvis has been not amazing so far this season, so that's a tough one. Like, I suspect it'll be a tough game. It'll probably be a pretty close game.
This is the type
Um,
the team Montreal need to compete and maybe win or to go. Like they cannot be get beat like badly, like the Devils example, or they're not there. This the team is the same caliber.
yeah. The good news, coach, is at least it's not in Columbus, so we don't have to hear that stupid, annoying cannon every time they score. Like, it gives me anxiety every time. Like, do you remember Montoya? When he was stuck in net for like 9 goals. Like, I'm sure that guy is still on like anti-anxiety medication for that one game. Poor guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. For Winnipeg, you know, Montreal just seems to always match up well against Winnipeg. So, in theory, like, Winnipeg should be hungry. Like, they need these points. Montreal is definitely a team that Winnipeg should beat for if they expect to kind of compete for a playoff spot this year. But there's enough players on that Winnipeg team that might carry some bad memories and some psychological kind of like damage from their loss to Montreal in the playoffs. And overall, Montreal's performed pretty well against them over the last couple of seasons. So I think that'll be a close game too. But in theory, I'll stick with my prediction 0-2 for these. But I think it's not going to be like, it shouldn't be like the New Jersey games. Like, again, what I'm looking for is for Montreal just to. I don't care if they lose. I just don't. I just want it to. And again, like, I think on the offensive side of the puck, like, they're creating enough. I don't want them to be hemmed in their zone for like minutes and minutes in a row, and where they're stretching themselves too thin, right? So that's what I'll be looking for in these next two games. Like, can they tighten things up, take less penalties, be a little bit more successful on the PK? Like, the PK has not really been that great either. One thing we haven't said a lot of positive things. The power play is not amazing, but right now it's like ranked 20th in the league. So that's if that trend continues, then that's a huge improvement from last year. So a little bit of kind of like
I
results in
remember
the power
they
play.
scored a goal against Toronto. They removed the goal when Coffee scored.
That's true. That's true.
That's a good one.
So listen,
Um,
a lot, a
I
lot of
like when
things.
the people in the chat, Marco, talk in the comments, everything like that. So I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Again, I don't want to put the hot seat. I was expecting Enortap with us, so I like put
yeah.
Enortap in the hot seat. But because this is a big question, who is the starter Thursday night again? The Columbus. Are you come back with Jake Allen, who have an amazing, great start of the season, won the last game, or do you go with Simon Montembeau and then you bring Jake Allen Saturday? Here we go.
Yeah. For me, it makes sense to bring in Montembeau for Columbus because you don't want him on the bench for too long, similar as to probably why they played Allen last time. So I would guess that they'll come back with Montembeau for Columbus.
From
And
Luciano, he said Jake Allen is supposed to be between the pipe.
based on what information? Like,
I think it's the goalie, a starter from the
well,
daily off.
they didn't even practice today, right? So I don't know. Like, that's probably just somebody assuming that because Allen had the two good games. Like, I wouldn't put any stock into that. Like, they're probably just thinking what should be logically right. But a lot of times these outlets don't really know what's happening on the team specifically, right? So I would suspect it would be Columbus, it would be Montembeau that would come in. And regardless of what happens, even if Montembeau plays well, then I think they'll go with Allen for the next game. Unless Montembeau has like a shutout or something incredible, I suspect that it will be Montembeau then Allen.
Now, last week I did exactly what you're thinking. Like the time, the space, the game, everything like that. And they
Yeah,
come back with Montembeau. Remember, like they play Saturday and then
yeah,
he come back Monday. Now I will say
yeah,
to you, that's the same situation. Um, I wouldn't be shocked they come back with Jake Allen because of that.
I would be shocked. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, but if I had to bet $5, which I don't
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
but if I had
I
to,
understand.
I would.
What
Yeah,
you said is exactly the logic or the sense of what you should be. Like I did
yeah,
last week, what I said, they don't going to let Jake Allen more 7
sit.
days, everything like that.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
consist with Montembo.
yeah.
So in the beginning, it's a bit surprised. And then Luc Laforcine said, I will go with Primo. Uh, for Luc Laforcine.
Hey, like again, like if you didn't have three goalies, like I think he played well enough to
But
get
look,
another
they
start.
have 4 goals, right? One in the empty net.
Yeah,
2 of the 4 goals on power play, right?
yeah,
And one of the 2 is 5 versus 5, but the guy is just put his 2 foot on the ice from the penalty box. They still score a 5 versus 4.
yeah,
So they have 3 goals almost on power play. About this for Enortap, he said Allen is expected but not confirmed.
yeah. But that again, like I don't see how anybody like there is no information to base that on. Sandy Weed, there was no practice today, so usually you get that information from who left the ice last and things like that, right? But they didn't practice today, so whoever is reporting that, they're just guessing based on the fact that Allen had a strong 2 games before Primo. So I wouldn't
All
put any
right.
stock in.
So I have 2 more subject, guys. One is NHL. We're still 20 minutes, so going to hanging there. And then, but I know it's going to create some kind of drama in the chat. I know it's going to create some, but that's the reason we come here about that. Don't forget, guys, tomorrow night I do the live streaming, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And then Friday night, guys, I do the Fun Day Friday prediction your game for Saturday, Mega Day. And I'm going to give you the leaderboard. Who have a good performance, it will be all set up Friday night. So I invite you. If you're not there Friday night and you want to participate, send us an email at hockeynationlive@gmail.com and give you the name, the team win Saturday, all the game, and I'm going to put you on the leaderboard about that one over there. So that would be a reason about that. But Mr. Marko, Montreal Canadiens next year during summer, if Monin leave the building, Pearson leave the building, they have a lot of money on the salary cap, and they have a lot of money to can spend everything on that. And some player guys are on UFA next year. And my conversation with Roy last night, and then I've grown since to create this with Enortap and Marko before the show when Enortap was with us. I think Enortap is right now working on his Halloween party. That's maybe the reason he left us tonight. Whatsoever. On the UFA next year, you have players like Jake Wenzel, Sam Reinhart, William Nylander, and you have Steven Stamkos. You have other players, right? A little bit over, everything like that. So all those questions, guys, and you can give me. Do you think, first of all, the Montreal should not sign any UFA next year? Secondly, if they sign a UFA, do you think they should spend over $8 million for this player? And thirdly, which one you would like to Montreal Canadiens would like to sign a UFA? And finally, are you agree or not with me if they should not sign Stamkos or not? So it's a lot. And the one question, Mr. Marko, find the way you think what I've just mentioned. I'm going to follow up with the chat what they said.
It's an interesting one, Coach. But it's hard to tell, right? Because it really depends. We need to kind of see what happens with the season, right? So assuming we finish in, we're a lottery team again, and they're able to draft, hopefully, kind of like a high skilled winger, as a top pick, right? So you're then infusing, because what I guess what you're saying here, and based on your previous notes from before, is that you feel strongly that we need another top 6 winger in order for us to be competitive in the future. And I agree. Like that's definitely an important piece, is to get another top 6 winger. So the question is, how are you going to get that top 6 winger? So if you get it through the draft, like if we're a lottery team and you're able to get that in the draft, then there's your answer. That's how you're getting that top 6 winger. Now, if for whatever reason Montreal performs better and we're not a lottery team, then maybe you're getting a player that's not going to be able to get into your lineup as quickly. So in terms of the list of players that you have there, what I notice is that most of them are right-handed shots. And if you're the biggest need that Montreal has is that other than Slavkovsky, I don't see that there's any kind of left hand wingers that are going. Maybe sorry for people. Joshua Roy is an outside. There's an outside chance that maybe he's a top 6 player. That's a left hand shot. But so if you're going to be looking to, I'm not even saying whether they should yet, right? But on this list, none other than Gensel, who's a left hand shot, is would fit that bill, right? So could Gensel, come in and produce in the Montreal top 6 over the next 3 years? Absolutely. But is that really what Montreal needs? So if you're just looking at the type of player, Gensel is not a big player, right? Like he is, I think, under 6 feet, probably under 200 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, right? So,
Guanzel?
Yeah.
Yes, he's 5'11" and 185, I believe.
Yeah. So I think, Coach, even yourself, you in the past have, the reason you didn't want to, draft somebody like Benson or another player like that is because you're like, you can't have all 5'10" forwards on your. Nobody wins with players that have more than 1 or 2 players under 6 feet. So I don't know why you're even considering a player like Gensel. I know that he's going to be able to maybe, kind of be a left-handed shot on the right circle on the power play, but other than that, I don't think that he fits your need. Reinhardt is a right shot. Stamkos is a right-handed shot. That's not even addressing the fact that I don't think by next year Montreal's really at the stage yet to go and sign a UFA. What I would much prefer them do is very similar to what New Jersey did. New Jersey went and they got a guy that wasn't necessarily a UFA yet. He was going to be an RFA. He's not even 28 yet, right? Like, how old is Meyer? He's like, what, 25, 26?
They trade for Meyer.
Yeah. So what I would prefer them do is
before that, what he did, they got Palat on UFA.
Yeah, that's fine. But
my
he's
point
not a
behind
top
that, Marko, is this part. Detroit did exactly the same thing. They got David Perron. They got Chariot. They got open up at some point UFA. They want to have a mix of the players. Remember, guys, next year we're losing Monahan, Pearson. The following year we're losing Jake Allen, David Savard, Devorak. Some point we need balance, and the balance is to have players have experience winning the Stanley Cup, playing NHL for over 10, 12 years. And this is what the reason I bring for me a player like Guanzel or Sam Reinhardt or someone like that. Or Steven Stamkos. I would not be afraid to sign Stamkos for the transition.
Nah, like I don't see it like so if you're using the template of the Devils, like yes, to me Andre Palat is not
they
really
signed Dougie Hamilton, Marko.
Sorry?
They got UFA Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, and I think as soon as I don't think they're going to win a cup with, like, by the time New Jersey is actually ready to win a cup, Dougie Hamilton will probably not even be on the team anymore. Nemec will be in their top 6 or in their top pairing defenseman, and so I don't think he's even going to really be a factor, to be honest. So I don't see the need necessarily to do that. Now, what I would prefer them they do is continue the same strategy that they've done. Use all the assets that you have, whether it's draft picks or prospects that you have, and go trade for a player that fits, maybe is more experienced, right? But not necessarily 30 years old. Because my concern with it, with signing a third, like UFA is the time of year where teams make the biggest mistakes. It's a terrible, it's very rare that teams, you overpay so much for players on July 1st for unrestricted free agency. So I would much prefer that they trade for someone that already has locked into a contract, or somebody that's an RFA that they have a little bit more control over and that's a bit younger.
Yeah, but you're not ready to do that. And secondly, the biggest problem is not the UFA, it's the trade deadline. I would not make any trade deadline deal me look what happened with many teams. They struggle because of that situation. Florida backwards 2 years because of that situation. They give too much on the trade deadline. But I think Montreal Canadiens, for me, I would look for a players. Now, not over $8 million, a short term. All the keys may be Monahan. I would give a 3 years contract at Sean Monahan. If you have no problem this year, play very well. At 3 years, if you want to play here for $5 million, because they need a top six. They don't have top six. They don't have nowhere. And it's not just Roy guys. It's not Owen Beck. It's not any. They don't have anybody can play top six Montreal Canadiens right now.
But what about the player that we're going to get in this year's draft? Like, so again, it really depends what happens with this season, right? So if we draft, we dropped in the top 5 this year, likelihood is that you're going to get a really top end forward.
Talking about top 5, bad news. Demidov out 6 months.
That doesn't change anything. We don't need him in the next 6 months. We need him in the next 2 years.
A knee injury is not easy about that. Also, the defenseman top 5, I think is the Dickinson, I believe. Another one for London, I believe. 6 months, 4 to 6 month knee injury. You don't like to get those kind of injury like that before you draft. Sure. He did not change the situation with Nemec, by the way. Nemec, you have an injury at the World Junior Championship, but you have used those players. You know, the NHL released the scouting 2024. Celebrine, Elzenman, and then you have is it Lishanov or Ilchanov, the defenseman for Michigan State.
I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
The Russian guy is like I think it's Lishanov. And then you have Zaliev, the big guy, 6'7". For them, they have also Katten. And then I missed one, the Russian kid. Oh, no, it's not Dickinson got hurt. It's the Finland kid got hurt, another injury at the knee, by the way. Sorry, our subject went out.
No, it's okay. I haven't totally locked into analyzing this year's draft pool yet. So soon. You know, I usually really start paying attention just after the World Juniors, and then kind of see how that plays out after. But so bottom line, coach, I don't disagree. It's like Montreal needs to infuse elite talent into the lineup. Bottom line, we both agree on that. I guess what we're disagreeing on is how, right? Because to me, how many teams have made terrible mistakes on July 1st, signing expensive, older, unrestricted free agents? I would much rather that Montreal expend some of their assets, whether it's draft picks, whether it's existing prospects, and go get like a player like a Timo Meier that's like in his mid-20s, that's ready to kind of jump in, maybe around the same age that Suzuki will be, you know? And then if you want to bring in another Monahan, Pearson kind of player, to add more experience to your lineup, that's fine. Those are kind of like team building stuff, right? So for sure, roster construction, I guess is the best way to put it. Roster construction will be important when it's kind of like at the stage that the Senators are at right now, right? You're no longer in the asset collection mode. You're not just collecting assets anymore. Now you're taking all the assets that you have and you're converting them into the pieces that you need to construct the roster that you think is going to help you win. So you're right. Maybe next year, Monahan is gone, but Gallagher's still going to be there. So maybe they have another need to bring in an experienced middle six winger to take some of those responsibilities or whatever. But again, you'll have to kind of see where things are at next year. But out of these players, I don't see a fit with any of these 3 players. I certainly don't see a fit with William Nylander. I just don't see that as a good fit.
No, we're not touching. He won $10 million. I will not break the template, right? But a guy like Sam Reinhart or Guanzel, you can get them around 8 minutes less or a little bit around. Not Reinhart. Reinhart is my secondary players, right? He can score 30, 35 goals. He can hit about $6 million. I'll be happy. But a Guanzel, you can get him about exactly what Kyle Connor get about $7.5 million. He got 7.1. But you can give him a 7.5, Guenzel for 5 years. That's the kind of player you need.
Yeah.
He fit
Listen,
well
like,
with Crosby. He fit one of the top one. If you go on the top 3 player you're talking about, example, let's go try to get Elias Peterson. What would be the cost of Peterson or be so much too much?
yeah.
And other effect, Marko, they don't get Celebrine or Elzerman. They're back on the same boat. They don't have anybody can play on the top line for the Montreal Canadiens. And we are now hitting Zuski at 25 years old. You're getting now Caulfield at 23 years old. You need someone. You need a forward there.
Yeah, I agree. So I know you wanted this to be combative, right? But I think we agree generally that that needs to happen. I just don't agree with the profile of player that you're targeting. To me, it's got to be somebody under 30 years old that you're going to want to bring in, because it's not just somebody it's not like Patrick Kane getting traded to the Rangers last year. He's just coming in for one run to make you over the top to win the cup. That's not what you want. You want somebody that's going to be able to give you 3-4 peak years of production as your core of players is just coming into its own, right? So to me, Timo Meier is the perfect example, right?
But Montreal is not there, Marko, for Timo Meier yet. They don't have enough asset to trade for Timo Meier. They don't have the team yet. But usually they did because they know what Hughes is. They know what my Shire is and Mercer. They have like a phase number 2 of the building, or the phase number 3 of the rebuilding, and they have asset like Medad Moulin, and because they have Nemec behind him, Montreal don't have anybody else, right? The only win they can get, they don't have.
That we don't agree. That we don't agree. So you don't think that? Honestly, I think if Montreal really wanted, they could have put a competitive bid in for Timo Meier with San Jose.
Like who?
So you could package together Goalie, like a first round pick, and a forward or something for Timo Meier.
They gave 5 players in return. So let's go with your first round pick, 2024 Montreal Canadiens, right?
Yeah.
And then you gave them at least a kid and Cooley and maybe more, because Cooley's 20, I would say to you, that's okay after that. Then they get another prospect with that, and they get a player about with that. So they have to give maybe Josh Anderson with that trait involved, and they have to give another prospect, Angstrom or Mayu.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Mayu, but listen, like, I don't agree with your statement that Montreal doesn't have enough or quality assets to make a move like that. Maybe not Meier specifically, right? But a player in that profile, like, it's an interesting question. Like, maybe I'll put together a list of players that I think would be a good candidate for that.
Kyle Connors.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Well, how old is he? He's like 26.
He's 26. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly the kind of guy. Now, I think you need somebody a bit bigger. Like, I don't well, Kyle Connors is a pretty tall guy, but he's not the most physical guy either, right? But he can easily score 40 goals, right? So yeah, somebody like that, right? Like a 26-year-old guy that can score at least 30 goals. We hope for a little bit of size there just because of the makeup of the team that Montreal already has. So I agree. Like that's the kind of move that they're going to need to make at some point here. I question whether it will be next year. I think maybe it's more the year after that they start making moves like that, because I think they still want to, from what I'm seeing from Hugo, is they really want to give all these assets enough time to kind of like develop a bit more to see what they really have before they kind of understand which pieces they want to move, right? Because again, Enortap and I have been debating this with you over the last couple months, but we feel that there's already too many assets, right? Like, we've had so many draft picks over the last 3 years. I was surprised that we actually used all of the draft picks that we had. Like, I thought for sure they were going to trade some of them, but they drafted almost all of them. They didn't trade any of them. And we have way more coming as well too. And who knows, there might even be more after we make some moves at the trade deadline this year, right? So at some point, you're going to have to start liquidating some of these assets, because you don't have enough room. Like, is what Trois-Rivières going to be like a stacked team that's going to like, are you trying to win whatever cup they have in the East Coast Hockey League? Like that team's get like there's just not enough contracts in an organization to do that, right? So at some point they're going to have to liquidate some of these deals, some of these assets that they have. So I'm not sure if it's going to be next year, but it's coming for sure.
Well said about that. I appreciate that about this. But I think computer for Goalie is one good trait about that. Thanks so much. Finishing, we have 4 minutes, Mr. Marko. We invite everybody, guys. Don't forget to click on the like. We are almost at 50 likes. That'd be good. NHL, 6 game right now. Who struggle? Who you expect? Do you see a chance the coaching in Ottawa, Edmonton? What do you think about so far the expectation between the, what's going around the team? We're going to do well, win Boston. 3 team in NHL. This is rare, guys. After a 6-7 game, you still have 3 game, 3 team with no undefeated. Colorado, Vegas, Boston. Which one of them are you the most surprised? And on the side, which team is not good for that one of them?
Well, first thing, Coach, I'm just curious. Did you like the frozen frenzy thing that they did yesterday? Like I love the fact that they staggered the start times.
I love it. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Marko. I kick out Marko. About that one there. Hold on, Mr. Enortap. I kick out Marko for you.
He spoke enough for tonight.
Well, because I click on it and you pop up at the same time, so it was a problem with that. Hopefully, Marko is going to be back. I'm going to rebuild that one over there. I have to move myself about this one over there. We'll see if you number 1, it pop up right there. Number 1 is there. I'm going to bring you. I cannot move this one there. Don't stay there, Mr. Enortap. I'm going to bring you here on the number 1, and Marko should be number 2 when he pop up about that one over there. So we're getting there, Mr. Enortap. Hopefully we'll be back for sure. We was talking about NHL, Mr. Enortap. I would ask him.
Yes,
he was talking about, first of all, he was talking about the 16 game together. What do you think about that?
Well, in practice, it's not a bad idea. I get what they were trying to do, Coach. And you got to realize today's audience is different than, let's say, 15, 20 years ago. At one point, you would look for your local team on TV and you would follow that. Hey, Marko, welcome back.
Hey.
Sorry about that. It's because Enortap pop up and I click on it, but it was on the same like you on the guest. So anyway,
it's all good. It's all good.
So it's just like 2 hours later, Marko. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been involved. It's just for some reason the internet's working, but it's weird. The link wasn't working for whatever reason. But
so
anyways,
the point that I installed on your computer so that I could take over the show worked.
So that we wouldn't argue. I get it. Yeah. The point I was trying to make, Coach, is today's audience is exposed to much more. Like that, 15 years ago it was more a local thing. You watch your local team. It wasn't blacked out, and nowadays there's so much more access through streaming and whatnot. And let's face it, they like to jump. They don't like to stay stationary on a game. So you jump from one game to the next, and in practice, I don't know if they can continue to do that on a frequent basis, but like they did yesterday, where they, displayed all the teams in a bit of a staggered manner, was, not bad. It was kind of interesting, I thought. The only downside I see to it is that you get these lull days in the week, today and on Monday, where nothing really is happening. But maybe not 16 games, but 14.
Yeah, it reminded me of, remember when hockey came back like right after COVID, and they had games staggering like throughout the whole day. That was like Christmas for like 2 weeks, right? Like just hockey all the time, right? So as a hockey junkie, I agree, right? Like today seemed like there's only one game on Monday, only one game today. So it's kind of like feast or famine kind of feeling, but I love, one of my pet peeves is when all the games start at the same time and you get to the intermission, you want to go check out another game and like they're on intermission as well. So
They're
I
all
love,
on under.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I like it. I think it was good. I think overall it's fun.
yeah.
Same night. It's just like, it's good for the fans. You have all the chance to see everybody at the same time. It's just like it's hard because the next night or the day before you have only one game or two game around. Or be set. Talking about NHL before you ask you about your team. What do you feel about the new change about the draft of the NHL draft? What they said they don't want to do the same way anymore. They want to go from city to city, and they will be players all the same place, whatever it is. So how you feel about that? Or you
Go
don't?
ahead.
Maybe you did not know about what's going on.
No, I heard about it. I mean, personally, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, and I like to see it the way they've been running it. I think in some cities, it really generates the kind of excitement that it should. Like they did a good job in Nashville. They definitely did a great job in Montreal when they had it. Toronto's been good too. New York. So I like to see that part of it, but I also understand that sometimes they want to test out new things and see how that goes, especially since some of the other sports have gone that direction as well. So
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. Like, so what they're proposing is they'll still have a city hosting it, and all the players will still go to that one place, but all the
but not,
teams, yeah,
yeah,
the team scouting staffs will stay in their own cities. And so what I don't like about that is that some of the most exciting stuff, like there's always the rumors, right, on like draft day and like just the excitement of it on the floor, is a pretty exciting thing. And there's a lot of things that come from those kind of interactions, right, with GMs meeting with each other and stuff like that, right? So I think I get it, like so just like what we were just talking about, the thing I liked about yesterday is that the NHL is really crappy at marketing. It's just not very good. So I
oh
like that they're
yeah,
trying things when it comes to like, frozen frenzy, like try shit like that, man. Just make sure it's not a frozen puck or a laser puck. Like that was kind of annoying, but try different stuff. But I don't understand why tamper with the draft. It's one of the most exciting things. I like it that all the
yeah.
teams are in one place. It creates buzz because all the fan bases are wondering, hey, oh, you see that GM talking to that GM, like it's just fun. Why screw with it? I don't understand.
Not
Save
only that,
money,
but you would think that
But
for the
the
cities
fact is because
themselves,
it's too long. That's what the complaining now. They said it's too long. Like
well,
and to
that,
save money too,
yeah,
right? Like the operating
and
budget.
then you have the money, right? If you stay in Montreal, you sell out the 20,000 people there, and you pay whatever it is, and at the end they make more money if they will stay home. No transportation, no staff left and right, everything like that. The
yeah.
only
But
thing I
think
would say to
think of
you, I
the
did that for many years, me, right? I did that at least 7, 8 years. This is the only day you have everybody there. Like everyone is there. The
exactly,
scout, the GM, the assistant GM, the owners, everybody
Yeah,
is there. And it was
yeah.
great connection to make this. You have an NHL meeting and everything, coaching staff, everything like that. And you have other things, the golf tournament, you can go. You have other things. They are going to lose that. So at some point, you cannot be perfect. I don't said is right or wrong about this. It's just for me, the formula they have, I enjoy it. But yes, it's too long. I think you're losing too much. To bring the players on the stand, and then on the stage, and then after that you go over there. They have an interview. It's too long. I don't know how they can
But they,
cut this from X hour
they
to
can.
less one
There's
hour.
there's
I don't know,
ways.
but
for sure. And really,
There's there's ways.
yeah, and it's really the first round. Like I don't think like the first round is good entertainment, right? Like if there's ways to make the other rounds go faster. Another thing that teams were complaining about is that with the travel, there's because it's right before the July 1st, right? Like before free agent season. So arguably, that's one of the most important days of the season to plan your next season too, right? So some of the GMs feel it's too short of a turnaround time between the draft and then going back to your home base and getting ready for free agent season as well too. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
All right, we're past over time. If I can keep you 5 more minutes, just the NHL. What's going on around the NHL now? Can you tell us a bit more about how you surprise or deception, player or whatever it is, concern, all the stuff. So let me tell us what you think, and the chatty people do the same thing, and then we're going to shut down the show tonight.
Enortap, all yours, baby.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we talked about this on Sunday with Coach. For me, the real surprise has been a couple teams. You have Detroit, who's obviously gone off to a 5-1-1 start, and they're looking like the type of team that almost needed to take that step back last year before they can move forward a couple steps. I had questioned their defense. I thought that it wasn't as solid as it could be. They had some aging players there, but so far it hasn't really been too much of an issue. As a matter of fact, they've only don't remember how many goals they've allowed, but they've been very strong defensively as well. And they have, with the acquisition of Reimer, they have now a very legitimate 1-2 punch in goal as well, and we can't underestimate that at all. To me, the key thing is last year there came a point for Detroit where even Yzerman saw that they weren't ready, and that was, I think they had 3 games in a row against, I believe, Ottawa, and Ottawa smashed them in all 3 games, and they knew that they were not at the stage that they thought they would be. This year so far, at least the first game they played together, I think we saw a different Detroit team there, and Ottawa was also on a bit of a hot streak at the time. So I was pleased with what I saw there. The other thing, of course, is surprise in a negative way, of course, has been Edmonton. I think this is more than just wait and this will be resolved. There's other issues that to be looked at here, and I would not be surprised at all if we see a coaching change in Edmonton if this is not resolved very quickly. And without McDavid for a couple of weeks, that could be more of an issue than we thought. But I think those two probably stand out the most for me. I'm not at all surprised with Washington and Pittsburgh where they're at for many reasons, but those are the key teams. Buffalo maybe a little bit where they are.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'm total believer in Detroit yet, and the coach was mentioning that earlier. Like, to me, like, Yzerman going out and then signing a bunch of free agents, to me, is just an indicator that their rebuild is broken and not going super well, right? Like, they had to trade away one of their top 5 picks, Zadina. They got nothing in return for him. Some other picks haven't really worked out. Like, Raymond had a good year, hasn't, kind of a sophomore slump. Like, so to me, like, having to go out and sign all these NHL players, what was your rebuild for? where are all the young players that were supposed to kind of come in, other than Sider and a couple? Like, what are so Detroit? I just find weird. Like, we'll see how it plays out, but it's kind of weird.
But it's not too
Edmonton,
bad. It's not too bad, Marco. They still have, Raymond and Sider and DeBrincat's
who
not
else?
old, obviously, and
Who?
he fits in well with Larkin, DeBrincat, and
Yeah,
Kubalik has
that's
been okay. It's been decent as well, and they have a
Kubalik.
number of
Kubalik they traded
uh,
to Ottawa. They traded him to Ottawa. Kubalik.
no, sorry. They have a number of other players that they have coming through the system as well, especially on defense. I mean, they've got a couple solid guys there. Plus in net, not that they need it there right now, but I think they're going to be secure. They did go off the tracks a little bit, I thought, last year, but yeah, time will tell. But so far they're looking very solid.
Yeah, it's October, so a little early for me to say, who's surprising, who's not. Like, Chicago, like Chicago looked good in the first 3 games, right? So very early still. I agree. Like, Boston being undefeated is pretty amazing. Like I just don't know. I just don't understand. It really shows you how far a good culture can kind of get you, right? Like just playing the right way, knowing how to play hockey. You can overcome a lot of personnel issues when everybody's on the same page, playing the same way. It really makes a huge difference, right? So that's been pretty crazy to watch. Vegas not having any kind of Stanley Cup hangover at all. They have almost the exact same roster as last year, except for one player. So that's been a pretty incredible story.
They're deep.
Yeah, they're deep, and like you can't underestimate the addition of Barbashev, right? Like that was they had to sacrifice Riley to really be able to fit in Barbashev. But that's a great coach. That's a great example of what we're talking about, right? Barbashev, is it that kind of player that you need to kind of insert into your top six eventually, right? For Montreal a year or two from now, right? Like it's not necessarily going to be a UFA, but it's a player that you identify from another team that's just at the right point in their career that's going to be the perfect fit for your roster, right? So I love the addition of Barbashev. It's such a good example. Vegas taught us one thing last year is that there's not just one way to win a Stanley Cup, right? Like everybody always says it's through draft and development, but that's not how they did it, man. They just traded, it was like a PlayStation game, right? They just kept trading people and trying to build the perfect team, and finally they hit the jackpot and found the right recipe, right? So they've been pretty interesting to watch so far. To me, one of the teams that I'm looking closely at is Arizona, right? Like I'm very interested to kind of see how they progress this year. Very fun team to watch. So, very early yet, but some interesting stories so far in the season, Coach.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. So a player like Cat, they'll be surprised. Jack Hughes can become the next Connor Bedard. We don't know about that one over there. I know it's a little bit high, but still. And then it's still early. Like, Kraken start very badly. Now they win yesterday, they beat. Is this a huge W for them? Can they compete right there? Vancouver is in front of them. Kings don't play at the same level they play. But for me, Boston is really the team, surprisingly for me. And at the end of the day, they cannot give goal. We talk about Pasnak and Bergeron, Krejci, but this team is built on the defensive zone completely. They gave 1 goal, 2 goals per game so far since the beginning of the season.
Crazy. Yeah.
Many of us put him out of the line of the playoff, but they prove it. They build the culture that way, and they have a system work every single time. So we definitely talk more about the NHL guys Friday night. We invite everybody to join me live Friday night. We're going to talk about the NHL news and Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to be between the game Columbus and the Winnipeg Jets. We'll see Montreal. Last prediction before you leave, all of you guys. I know you lose. You talk about maybe Montreal is going to lose tomorrow, but what will be the final score of the Montreal Canadiens versus the Columbus Blue Jackets?
Who said they were going to lose?
They're
not going to lose tomorrow. They're still going to go 2-2 this week.
Okay.
I say Montreal wins this one 5-2.
Oh.
Right, I'm gonna say 4-2 for Columbus.
I said 3-1 already won already, so I have to go with the losing about that one. Was supposed to win tomorrow about one. I always said I don't know who win. The only thing I know is they're going to do in overtime.
No.
I think
Elvis. That will be overtime.
Elvis will make it closer than it should because he hasn't had a good start yet.
And we're going to see Adam Fantilli. That's the most fun about tomorrow night. So we'll see. He got 2 points the last game for Fantilli. It's another team, guys, at the same level of Montreal Canadiens. Same number of points I expect at the end. I don't know who's going to be in front of them, each other, but the team's going to be between 26 to 32 at the end of the season, I believe. 25 maybe, but not much. But before we leave, we want to thank all the moderators to join us tonight. Many of them, they was with us. We want to thank Enortap for the 17 minutes, 26 seconds so far, and the chat with us as a co-host. And then Mr. Marko, you stay over 2 hours. Thanks so much, Marko, to be with us. Both of you, we appreciate that, what you bring on the table. And other people, click on the likes. Don't forget to click on the likes. And of course, other people with us. Don't forget, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, we talk about the Montreal Canadiens Nation.
You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you.
You have greatness inside of you, both of you. Thanks a lot both to join us. But before we leave, we want to remind you one more thing. Be well, be health. Find a way not only dominate your day, but find a way to dominate the second half of what?
You're 2023.
He did it again. An amazing, great night, everybody. Of course, the Hockey Nation have show. The Ab Nation want to tell you one more thing. We love you, people. Have an amazing, great night. I will see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Thanks, Marko and Mr. Enortap.
Good night. Good night.
Thanks for all the hard work, Enortap.
Yeah, anytime.
He's exhausted, Marko.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Last
Good night,
in,
Marko.
first out. Night.
Right. Booyah!